Hey everybody, this is Cherokee Edwards from Cherokee Edwards Inspires, where we're going to have shows here to talk about life, to talk about what makes your life special, what makes it better, and everybody working together, because together everyone achieves more. Acronym for the word team. Stay tuned and let's get it on. Hey everybody, what's up? This is your boy Cherokee on another edition of the Cherokee Edwards Inspires. And on this edition, we're going to talk about value. And I was asked to talk about the value specifically about purchasing timeshares and resorts. But then other people were like, hey, talk about value, period. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and just talk about pure value of anything that I feel like is, of value. So let's talk about it. Let's start off with the resort world, because obviously I spent, 20 years in the resort world, and 10 of them for the resorts. And then of course the last 10 really on my independent company. So let's dive right in. First of all, in the timeshare world, there is a value there, but the value is only there if you vacation, if you like to enjoy yourself and go for a week at a time, or if you bought a point system, then you bought enough points to do the things you want for weekends, break them up, right? So the first thing I want to talk about is the fixed weeks and floating weeks, okay? So we'll talk about the oldest form of timeshare. The oldest form of timeshare is the fixed week. You bought a certain week, and that's your week every year. So let's just say you bought week 23, which is, close to this time. We're actually like in week 22, I believe right now, 2022. And so if you bought this week, this is your week to come. And I'm here in Williamsburg, Virginia. So we're going to say you bought it here in Williamsburg, Virginia. So this is your home location, your home base. And generally what happens is you also get a membership into the RCI network or the Interval International Network, respectively called RCI and II. Well, those become the brokers in the situation of exchange purposes. So if you didn't want to come to your home resort on one particular year, you wanted to go, let's just say Florida for all intents and purposes, well, you would pay the $166 exchange fee, and then you would deposit your week. You would deposit the week 2022 or whatever, and then you would go into, the pool of RCI or II. And you would select a week that you wanted to go there. As long as something's available, the exchange happens. Okay, that worked out great. And for over 80 years, that this system has been in America. But timeshare originated in Europe, and timeshare is about close to 100 years old, dating back to the Europeans' way of traveling and doing things. And then, of course, America adopted it and expanded it and made it bigger. Well, what started happening was people were saying, you know what? I hate being locked in to a specific week on my timeshare. So the resorts got smart, the developers got smart, and they said, well, let's come up with a float week, a float time. So what that means is you bought a block of time, like a yellow week. If it's II, it's yellow, green, and red. If it's RCI, it's red, white, and blue. Red is always the peak season of all, right? So white season in the RCI system is the mid-season, and blue, I used to always tell people, just think of yourself, being so cold that you turn blue. Well, that's what happens. And it's a time where nobody really wants to go to that resort location, but the price is much lower because it's a blue week and it's not really in high demand. Everything in the timeshare world is about travel, is about demand, supply and demand, just like anything else, right? Location in the real estate world. If everybody wants to go to that location and it's, a little supply there, then you can raise the price up. The value is much higher, okay? So when we talk about value, you need to buy in a location that people like to travel to, and you'll need to buy a week or a time when people like to go there. That's what gives you what's called trading power. If you have trading power, then you have something that someone wants, and before you give that up, you ask for what you want. And again, that's trading power. Of course, that's giving you value for when you purchase. Here's the problem that happens in that scenario. A lot of times people buy based on price alone. And if you're buying based on price alone, then out goes the window of value, because the first thing you do when you go into a presentation is you get shown the glitz and glamour, the best that they have. And you'll see a price in the area of $50,000 and sometimes more, right? And they know they're going to bring that price down maybe to about 35,000, and it'll still be, that week or close to that week. But here's the problem. You start playing the game where, oh, I bet they'll go and get us something else. And they start saying, oh, I found something else for you. I found something else. Okay, this one's only 20,000. Well, here's what happens. What they don't tell you a lot of times is you went from a week 26, which is the most requested week in Williamsburg, which is 4th of July, most requested time, in the calendar, to a week 13, which is like April. Now April's not bad. The weather's not bad. But a lot of times without the COVID-19, school's still in. You get spring break around that time, but for everybody, they don't want to do that. They may want to go if it falls on a different time frame. Now, all of a sudden, the kids are still in school and your week is going. So you either have to pull your kids out of school or you lose your week, or you have to deposit it, bank it, and go somewhere else. Play Russian roulette at times, especially with a week that's not that highly requested. I don't want to get too deep into this. If you guys ever want to know more about it, then we'll set up something more personal and I'll teach you all of that. So here comes the floating week. The floating week gives you any one of the first 9 weeks. That'll be the yellow or the white season or blue season in the RCI system. Yellow season if it's Interval International. Now what happens is you got any one from week 1 to week 9. Week 1 being the first week of the year, first week of January. And then week 9 would be, of course, that's February, late February, early March. And once again, the value is not the same as that week 26. So even though you saw that price at $30,000 for that week 26, and they brought the price down to week 20, and they say, hey, well, we're going to put you in a floating week so you can pick out any week you want. Well, that's kind of a play on words, because it is true to a point. When you have a floating week, you deposit you go and actually get a week and reserve a week at your home resort. And then you deposit that into the exchange companies. Now, the reason why it's called a float is because it's not a guaranteed week to you. You have to request it first, which means it has to be a week available at your home resort in order for you to request it and then, in turn, deposit it into your exchange company. I know it sounds crazy, right? Sounds like a lot. And some of you guys already know how that works. And some of you are extremely frustrated with finding that out years after you bought your timeshare. Then you come back and you want to complain about it or you want to talk to somebody about it. And what do, guys? They sell you more of what you already have a problem with. Now, we call it upgrading, right? And there's times where, yeah, that works. If you have a plan, and I have done this with clients where we would talk about a 3 to 5 year plan for them to start with something that would build themselves up. Now, I started my career at a resort that was notoriously known for points, which was awesome. And this was the largest resort company in the world. And they believed in heavy training. So they didn't play around. And I loved them for that because they didn't throw you out on the floor without knowing your product. There are a lot of, and nowadays, these companies and resorts, they're a little bit watered down in the fact that if you know somebody, you can be put into the best departments or given the best tours, and everybody will come over and help you get your, close your deals and make your money. But when I started back in 1999, and of course, those of you that have been in there before then, you had to be very well trained in order to get on that floor. You need to know your product. Now, all of a sudden, when you know the product, you can give value because you become the value. So I always tell people buying the timeshare is not a bad thing. It's not. I love timeshares. I own property, right? And I've been around it since 99. So it's my 21st year going on now, right? I created my company to protect timeshare owners because I knew what the problems were by dealing with them on the frontline sales department. And then most of my career spent dealing with the owners. After they bought, they would come to me to learn how to use their program more efficiently. And a lot of times they would upgrade. Well, that's not a problem. If you upgrade with your eyes wide open and you know what you're doing, it's not a bad thing. Where it's a bad thing is when you come in saying, I'm not able to use my week. I'm not able to use my inventory. I can barely afford this. And somehow you end up leaving with a better week, but more expensive product as well. So your maintenance fee goes up. You spend another $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 more. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing if you went into that with your eyes wide open. But if you got tricked into that to making you think that your value, your property is so much, this is one of the things that I tell you to guard against. If you got tricked into that, it's where they show you that this property is valued at $60,000 and you've already paid $20,000 into your first timeshare, right? So they'll wrap that in and say, okay, this is going to be a trade-in. And some resorts, they really do that. They'll take that $60,000 price tag and they'll take that $20,000 or if you paid it off, if you've only paid, let's say you've only paid $2,000 or $3,000, let's say $2,000 just for the sake of the game. So if you paid $2,000 into your $20,000 loan, and let's just say you still owe 18 grand on it, they will put that 18 grand into the 60,000. So in other words, it will appear that they took the 20,000 into the trade, right? But it would be on the back end. So they would sell you the property for $60,000. They may have marked it up to 78,000 and then give you 18,000 of equity back, but then you still paid the entire thing by leaving a balance of $60,000. And that's the game that I'm talking about, where they make it feel like there's a lot of value. We'll be right back after a station identification, and we'll get a little deeper into this.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Cherokee Edwards Inspire Show, and we're talking about timeshare value right now and the value of buying property and the difference in the systems. Well, that difference in that fixed week and that floating week are easily understood. I always tell people sometimes the fixed week is far stronger, far superior than a float week. In the fact that if you own a summer week, right, other people want that week. So you have value, you have trading power. If you have a floating week, even though they tell you you can request any week, any one of the 52 weeks out of the year, that's a play on words. You can request anything you want. You could go to the bank and request a loan for $10 million, even though you only make $10 an hour. Well, the chances of you getting that $10 million loan is slim to none, but you can request it, right? And that's the same thing with the floating week. So if you got a float, let's say a float yellow week or a float blue week, which, like I was saying earlier, are the weakest weeks in the system, and you request 4th of July in Miami or 4th of July, even here in Williamsburg, the chances of you getting it are slim to none because they have what's called equal or lesser value trading. That means if you bought a certain week and you own a certain bedroom size, you can trade equal to or lesser value than what you purchased. Again, that doesn't go through that well when you're on the sales presentation. You're always told you bought the best thing since sliced bread, and now all of a sudden a year later you find out it doesn't work the way you thought it did, or you got kids, or you're building your family and the family start changing and you say, wait a minute, we need to come in the summer now. Well, that's set up perfectly for the in-house department to sell you a summer week. Trade in your winter week and upgrade to a summer week. Now that's good though, because maybe you couldn't afford the summer week the year or 2 years prior. And now all of a sudden you got a raise on your job, or you've done well with managing your money. You paid off a couple of bills and you can afford that $300-$400 a month payment now. Well, guess what? You did a good thing if you upgraded into a summer week. Now, 1991, the company called, at the time, Fairfield Resorts, which is now called Wyndham, they started a points-based system. And a points-based system is the best system for families who are extremely flexible, or needing a system to be flexible and, wanting to go for weekends at a time, not always a whole week. They want to take a couple nights out. Well, guess what? That made that system basically flawless, because what you do now is you only need, let's say you bought 154,000 points, which is enough points to get a 2-bedroom here at, say, Governor's Green Resort. All right. And you say, well, we only need 20,000 points for these couple nights in this 2-bedroom. All right. Well, you're going to take 20,000 points out of that 154, and you'll be left with 134 to go somewhere else, which is plenty of points to do something somewhere else for a few nights. That's where that program is strong. But back to this value, back to what I want to do is to guard you. I know that when you go and buy these timeshares, you're shown an incredible amount of value because you're looking at it through the developer's eyes. You're looking at it through the salesperson's eyes. But nowadays, with 20 plus years from me being involved, the internet has shown me a ugly truth. The ugly truth is families don't end up staying with their timeshares a lot. There's a lot of people that decide, you know what, I can't use it anymore. It's not working the way it was working before, or I can't afford it anymore. The kids don't want it. Somebody passed away. All these scenarios that can happen, that I see happen every day. And the resorts won't take it back. A lot of times, they'll say, oh, we want first right of refusal. If you go to sell it, we want the first right to say no to it. Well, they're going to say no. And when you say, hey, I'm ready to sell my timeshare, do you guys want to buy it back first? And they say, no, you go ahead and sell it. Well, the reason why they do that is because they don't want it back. They want you to continue paying your maintenance fee. Now, like I said before, I'm not on here to bash timeshares because I love resorts. I love them. I would take a resort over a hotel any day of the week. However, some of the tactics and practices of the resort industry has gotten to the point where all they care about is money and less about their clients, less about the members, right? And I think it's reversed, because without the members, without the people who bought the properties, there is no timeshare company. There is no resort. Somebody's got to buy them, and then somebody's got to use them so that it perpetuates itself. And then you're worth, it's worth paying the $1,000 a year maintenance fee. Well, the value of that, and here we go. This is the ugly side of what we're talking about value with the timeshare world. When you start looking at the timeshare's value, look no further than when you go to a bank to try to refinance it or to get a loan for it, right? The banks won't give you a loan for a timeshare. And a lot of times the reps will even guide you and say, hey, go get a personal loan in the amount of the timeshare so you can pay the timeshare off. Well, that's what you'd have to do, because if you say that I want a second loan for my timeshare, there's no bank in America that's going to, give you that loan for that timeshare, because it doesn't have that value to them. It's not something tangible that they could actually take away from you and sell it and people waiting for it, like they could do your home or like they could do your car, right? See, your house has a certain value to it because people would want to move into it. Your car has a certain value because somebody would want to drive that car. But the timeshare is different. The timeshare is a right to use. And that means that you have a right to use it for 1 week a year, right? If it's not a valuable week, it lessens even more of the value. And if you get families that don't want to go for a week at a time and don't want to go to the location that you bought at, good luck with trying to get rid of that thing. So that's one of the reasons banks don't give you loans for timeshares. Companies have gotten very slick. Developers have gotten slick, where they built relationships with credit card companies. Put your timeshare on a credit card. Some of you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. They give you a credit card in the amount of $15,000, $20,000 for whatever you purchase, right? Well, now it appears you don't owe the resort anymore. You owe MasterCard, or you owe Visa, or you owe, any one of them. I mean, I've seen it where people have done that through American Express. And I'm always saying American Express is very, very critical. So I always say, one family, I found out that it wasn't American Express that they were dealing with. They were dealing with a subsidiary, but it was a subsidiary to American Express. So they were allowed to use the logo, So they got all kind of tricks to get you comfortable to buy and think you bought something of incredible value. So you bought something for $20,000, or it appears you bought it for $20,000, and you got a really good program. And then when it's time to resell it, A, they won't even give you what you bought, what you paid for it for, even if you pay cash. And B, they wouldn't take it back from you if you gave it to them for free. They give you a hard time of giving you something that they told you, and I'm using my air quotes, had such value to it 10, 15 years ago, or even 2 years ago, 1 year ago. There are people with this pandemic that have bought a timeshare last year, this same time, so that they could enjoy it this year, right? But here's the thing. That family lost their job over the last 3-4 months, and now they're trying to get back at work. So guess what they can't do this year? They can't take that vacation because their other bills suffered behind not having the hours, right? So you say, okay, well, look, the timeshare is not working right for us now. Now it's it's strangling us. So let's call the resort and let's say, hey guys, this was nice. It was a nice thought, but we're not going to be able to pull this off. We're going to go ahead. We want to turn it back in. You guys can buy it back from us for the same amount that we bought it for last year, right? Or if you just made a down payment of, let's say, $1,000 on that $20,000 timeshare, and you made you made 10 payments on $200, a month, right? For 10 months, you would have paid in another $2,000, so $3,000. So now let's say you said, okay, I'm willing to just take $17,000 for it. I'll take the loss on the other. You're not getting that either. And see, that's where I say it's a trick, in the value. And that's what made me really leave the resort industry, because I saw value and the resort did not care to hear about that. The resale market is strong if it comes through the resort. It's terrible if it's put on the social media outlets. People are selling their timeshare for $1, $2, $3, a couple $100. I always say a couple hundred, a few $100, simply because it does cost several $100s to transfer the name out of your name to the new buyer's name. But somebody would rather spend $700, $800 for the timeshare that you spent $20,000 for any day of the week and get what's equal value to what you had. I know that doesn't make you guys feel good when you hear that, but it is the truth, and sometimes the truth hurts. So I was asked to do that tonight. I was asked to do it earlier, and I decided to do it tonight. I need you guys to be very careful. You're going to be excited because you're back out, and I'm not telling you not to buy. Like I said before, if you decide to buy from the developer, make sure you did your homework, you do your due diligence, because you're going to be left with, an empty bag later if you don't do your homework. You'll be the person that I'm talking about now. You will be what the example is that I'm giving. And most of you guys know someone that's in this position, because statistics show that 1 in every 5 people that either owns directly a 1 week of timeshare at least, or knows somebody that owns a timeshare directly. That's how many people in just America households that actually own timeshares. So, and that value goes for anything, guys. I know I said I was going to throw in some other things, but the same value for anything. If you're looking at buying a car and somebody's selling a car at a house, I just helped a friend buy a car, and and actually I consult this individual. But what I did before we went down there, and we drove about 65 miles one way to go look at the car, and we did purchase it. But what made the purchase strong was I have friends that are bankers, and I was able to call my banker friend in a major bank and ask for the ADA, and that's what they use, not the Kelly's Blue Book that you always hear about, but the one that the banks use. I want to know, with the mileage, the VIN number, and the make and model of the car, what is the max loan that the bank would give if you went into the bank and said, I want to buy this car. This is how much the guy's selling for. What would you give me? And whatever that number is, hopefully it's going to be under that, which this one was. It was $726 under what the bank would have gave as a loan. So that was a good deal. But this is what I mean. If you get into a desperate state, if you let somebody talk for you and think for you, then you're going to get in a lot of trouble on any state, whether it's a car that you're purchasing, whether it's clothing, whether it's jewelry, a house, timeshare, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, especially if it has some type of high price to it, don't just buy something because of the price tag on it, because you could be buying a problem. Even if you like the price, do a little bit of homework on it. Ask the person if they have any form of guarantee. When you go to a timeshare resort and you take one of these presentations because they're giving you a free $100 Visa gift card, or they're giving you dinner passes, or if you're in Orlando, they're giving you park passes or something. Just think about it this way. Look around the room and remember, you came in there that one time, but so did everybody else in that room that you're looking at. So they're good at doing that if they're able to give you that free gift. You're not the only one getting a free gift. Everybody you see on that floor is getting the same thing you're getting. So they must be pretty good at salesmanship if they're able to give $100 and you got 100 people on the floor. Can you think about that? It's insane, because you're able to spend out $10,000 maybe a day, $10,000 a day to get those 100 people in there. But they only need one sale. The average 2-bedroom sale costs about $25,000. So one sale pays for the marketing costs and still puts $15,000 towards something else. And they expect at least an 80% success rate. So if you had 100 people in there, you're expecting at least 20 deals. If you get 20 deals at an average of $25,000, you know what I mean? Think about that. That's $500,000? You're looking at that much money, in at least weekly sales. So it's okay to spend $50,000 a week to marketing if you're making $500,000, back with it, So think about that as you think about value. People don't give gifts for free. I used to look at people all the time and they'd be the smartest people in occupational worlds, like accountants, lawyers, educators, teachers of all sorts, and some of them are salespeople. I used to always say salespeople are the easiest people to sell. They're just the easiest. And I'm one of them. I'm not going to sit up here and talk about salespeople as if I'm not one of them. I'm an easy sale for a lot of people if there's value there. If I see something of value, I don't like to walk away from it. I don't even have to drill the price down on you. I'll pay, above marketing price, for something that I really want. I need my wife there quite a bit of times to stop me from doing it. She's taking paintings and frames and stuff for paintings that I paid hundreds of dollars for. She went back and got it for $25, $30, the same thing we needed. I just ended up reaching and grabbing the thing that looked good in my eyes, and I didn't realize what the price value and price point was on them. But that's because I didn't do my homework on that. So that's why I'm really big on telling people, do your homework, especially if it's something that if you spend that kind of money, it could actually hurt you if it doesn't work the way you were told. And people pitch rental. They tell you to buy this, and if you can't use it, rent it out. Well, that sounds great, and it can rent because my company does do rentals for people. But there's no guarantee that it's going to rent for the prices that they tell you it rents for. And here's the worst part about it. They tell you to rent it out, and they act like they're going to rent it out for you. Or they know people that are going to do it. And next thing you know, you bought that thing with the intention of rentals for the first couple years to get some of that equity back and equity down built up. And it doesn't rent, but you still owe your mortgage payment on it, every month. and you still owe your maintenance fee. And then the maintenance fee goes up. And therein lies the major problem, the handicap of timeshare owners. What I hear more than anything else is I can't stand the fact that the maintenance fees go up every year. Well, make sure you do your homework, because if you paid a really fair price for the timeshare to start with, and you saved enough on that timeshare to begin with, then you could swallow the maintenance fee increase a lot more than if you paid a premium price for it. And then you also saw the increase in the maintenance fee, but you didn't see anything new added to the resort. That's going to add insult to injury. And it goes for anything, guys. Anything that's sold based on commission, make sure you do your homework. And I would always say do your homework before you get there. But if you end up liking it, make sure you understand the rescission process, which is generally 7 days. In Florida, your rescission time is 10 days. But make sure you know that. Read that paperwork in case it doesn't work the way you want it to work. Okay? All right. Well, I hope I helped you out tonight. Again, this was Cherokee. I was talking about value. And I will talk to you later. Tune in again. Wash your hands, family. Love you. Cherokee out.